Today on the show, we confront unpleasant new discoveries, question our relationships, and get our hands absolutely drenched in alien blood. Welcome back to Lore Party's special coverage of the Halo television series. On this limited run of the Lore Party podcast, we'll be providing in-depth recaps of each episode of the new Paramount Plus series, based on the timeless sci-fi shooter franchise. I'm Jaden.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Connor.
And I didn't hate this episode for once.
Hey!
Yay!
That is cause for celebration if I've ever heard any.
It only took 5 episodes for me to give a crap, but here we are.
I'm happy to hear you say that. I also felt like this was definitely a high point in the series. It's my favorite episode so far, easily. So excited to talk about it together.
I'm laughing because we'll get into it, but there was just moments where I was going back and listening to our podcast that we recorded for episode 4, and almost every single thing that I complained about was addressed.
Yeah, I thought about that too. The whole show and tell thing. I thought about that when it happened.
I was like, oh my god, the intern in the room was finally like, hey guys, we should probably show what this stuff is. And they were like, oh.
Yeah, we've had 4 episodes of a lot of tell, and then episode 5 here, Reckoning, was a lot of show, and I'm pretty happy with it. So
yep.
I'll be real with you guys. I have a lot of hot takes for this episode. I'm actually the one who has some to it. You know, a couple
interesting.
Quips, you know, a couple gripes I have.
Okay, that's
this
a
is what
switch.
it feels like to like an episode. Oh, I don't like it. I feel hope in my soul, and I don't like that. I prefer the anger.
We still have our ratio intact, though. 2 people who liked the episode and then 1 who doesn't. Like, it's still intact, I guess.
Thank God.
But no, that's a switch.
I don't say I hate it, but I have things to say.
Fair enough. Okay, well,
I'm excited for episode 6 where it goes right back down to boring. And then I'm gonna be like, there it is. There's the old familiar home.
Well, let's get into it with our recap. We'll break down the episode beat by beat. Episode 5, Reckoning. Kevin, what happened? Start us off.
Yeah, so we got a couple things that happen. It starts off with a flashback to Eridanus, where younger Halsey and Jacob Keyes are visiting the colony that John grew up at. This is the planet that they're at the end of the last episode. But now we're kind of back in time a little bit. And they witness...
Where it doesn't look like shit.
Yeah, it doesn't look like shit anymore.
People
There's
live
people
there.
running around, and it's not that bad. And so they witness John displaying this like really crazy uncommon strength and courage, of course. He saves a kid that's been bullying everybody, and the kid's about to fall. They're on this like tightrope thing, and the kid's gonna fall, and the kid's obviously bigger than John. And so John, even though the kid was bullying him, he grabs him and tries to save him. Halsey's like mesmerized by this and is convinced that he's exactly what she's looking for.
Exactly, yeah. Very cool callback from the books with Halsey and Keyes sort of scouting young Spartans together. I like that scene.
That my favorite part about that scene is that Jacob Keyes is hidden the entire time.
Yeah. Until
the last shot, and it's like, oh yes, honey, we do like. I was like, oh, this is great.
Yep.
I mean, yeah. Again, from the books, we all know that Keyes went with her on this. I wanted to say recruiting, but that's a lot less evil than what
Terrible
it actually
way to
was.
put it, yeah.
This kidnapping scouting mission. And so it's just like, what? He's in on it too?
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of funny. It's like, of course he's in on it. He's the one who was like, yes, I'm okay with child murder in the first episode. So like, who would have thought he's also cool with child kidnapping too?
So from there, we flash forward back to the present on Eridanus, and that's that very same Captain Keyes. He's now in charge of this UNSC outpost that apparently has been very quickly built up around the cave where the second artifact has been found, and Halsey is currently deep in her process and studying it. She and Aiden have set up a lab, and the whole place is now just crawling with UNSC Marines, other personnel, technicians, and there's tents and base camp equipment everywhere.
A lot of Marines walking to nowhere, I noticed in those shots. It was very funny. They were all like marching, and I'm like, where are you guys going?
Military 101 is try to look busy. Even if you're not doing anything, you have to look busy.
There you go, yeah. That's a government job for you.
In case an officer's watching.
They were like, Keyes is going to make us do something. Let's just march in formation.
Exactly. Up above the base camp, a UNSC destroyer called the Pioneer is kind of hovering above and waiting to take the artifact back to Reach. Everyone's kind of gathered around this newly uncovered object, and Cortana, taking a close look at it, taking some readings, she suggests that this artifact is capable of generating significantly more energy than the first artifact, which already had some pretty wild output from it. So it's hard to imagine even more from the second one.
And guys, I'm sorry to ruin our good times, but we got to go back to Madrigal now.
Man.
Everyone's favorite part of Halo.
Back to Madrigal.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who doesn't like this, because this arc seems to be universally disliked by everyone who's watching the show.
It wasn't as bad.
It's just weak.
Read online. Yeah, it's just not as interesting. But on Madrigal, Soren and Quan are stranded in the middle of the desert, and their motorcycle breaks down. And Quan is still committed to freeing Madrigal from Vistner's control and the UNSC influence. But Soren wants nothing to do with it. He's like, you know what? How about we leave? And the best part is that he goes, all right, you know what? Hey, Quan, hold on a second. And he handcuffs her to the bike. And he's like, yeah, you owe me money, you owe me deuterium, and you owe me a ship.
Right.
So you're going to work for me until you pay off that debt. So I'm going to go steal us another ride. And we're going to go, because he goes, because it's 200 miles, as if like she didn't already know how screwed they were just sitting there.
He's not a happy camper.
No, he's not. And so he leaves her in the desert to go get another ride, which I don't know what he was expecting. Like, why that she would just wait. That whole sequence where it's like, take her with you, man. Like, don't leave her out there. Just bring her with.
Yeah.
Tie her up outside somewhere, But yeah, so he goes to find a new method of and she throws her water very angrily at the ground, which I was also like, oh, that's hilarious. There goes that. You need that to live, but no, that's fine.
I will say I was glad that it was just a short scene, because right after that, it just cuts right back to Miranda, who lands on Eridanus, and Keyes asks her to like assist Halsey with the artifact, but then Halsey, lost in thought around the artifact as usual, just doesn't even seem interested in involving Miranda in like any research at all. Like It's just like the mom just ignores the kid. It's like, mommy, and it's just like, oh yes, oh the stock market, yeah. Like
That's
she doesn't
give
a shit. She doesn't give a shit about what Miranda has to say, because Miranda's got some pretty cool ideas. She's like, hey, this crystal around the artifact, this seems very weird. I want to run some tests on it before we do anything. And Miranda and Halsey's like, fuck it. What who said that? I heard a wind.
Just completely
ignores
her.
Yeah, it's like, and then so meanwhile, as Riz briefs the Marines on like the extraction plan, Kai makes small talk with Vanek and gets a bit too existential for his liking. He kind of tells her to he's kind of just more like, the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Shut up.
It was very funny. Like,
leave me alone. I'm trying to be a Spartan.
Yeah, it was very
Seriously.
strange for him. Like, he was very perturbed by Kai just asking like, why do you think the Covenant want to kill us? And he's like, I don't care. I've never thought about it. She's like, have you ever wondered why?
Well, that's the
you've
thing.
never
She
thought
keeps
about
asking
it?
the question, why?
Yeah, she never drops it. Like, it's why. She's being a toddler, literally. Like, no matter what answer you give her, she's just gonna say, but why? But why? But why?
The best part is that I kind of agree with him when he's like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
they're going to murder us.
Yeah.
She's like, but why? And it's like, you want to try to ask them? They're trying to kill us.
He ends the exchange with a very sort of clever and dismissive comment, like, you know what I'm wondering? I'm wondering if all that gun grease in your hair didn't seep down into your brain asking me dumbass questions. Like, so yeah, she's
so
definitely, experiencing a personality shift and thinking differently, and Vanek's not pleased with it. He's pretty annoyed. And so right after that, speaking of Spartans getting annoyed with each other for new personality traits, John notices Kai's hairdo, and he immediately realizes what's happening with her. Like, he's quick on the uptake, and he asks her point blank, when did you remove your pellet? Like, he knows what she did. And she doesn't deny it. She just admits it flat out, like, I did it right after I saw you do it. And, he's doing some kind of projection here a little bit, being a little bit of a hypocrite here, kind of like, you're not fit for combat. I have to ground you. You're a danger to yourself and others because as far as I can tell, your emotions aren't in check. So he's kind of like,
as anyone who's seen any movie means that she's definitely not going to get involved for the rest of the
course,
episode.
Yeah, of course.
Well, instantly though, she turns and says to him, she's like, "Well, what does that make you?"
Right.
Like she calls him out right away.
Right.
And he's just like,
he has no
I don't
answer.
care.
He has no answer to that.
You are not me. What am I? And like,
Yeah.
it's like it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like she realizes he's being hypocritical because, everything he said to her could apply to him just as easily. So it's like, but it's one of those things like, well, he's in charge of the team, so what he says goes. So she doesn't like fight it too hard. But
And we're going to take a break from that exciting drama to go back to Madrigal, but not for the reason you think. This time we're talking about Maki. Yeah, she's apparently on Madrigal now. She's leading a team of Sanghili to look for the I don't know, anything she can find on the original artifact, which that's pretty lucky as we come to find out later. But then we got to cut away from her to the other people that you were expecting to talk about. Quan, she somehow manages to break the handcuffs and get off detached from the bike. But what's so funny is that when she broke it, I laughed so hard. She didn't break the handcuffs; she broke the metal on the bike,
right, yeah.
And I'm like, why? The metal would be stronger.
Yeah.
On the bike than it would be on the handcuffs, I feel like. That's little links versus a giant metal grate. Yeah. But it's okay because she got away. So
yay.
What are we gonna see from her next? Yay!
It's so exciting.
I heard someone call it Twitter time whenever they cut to Madrigal, and it made me laugh really hard.
That's when you just check your phone.
Time to check my phone.
Funny.
All right. Oh, Master Chief. Oh, let's go back to this. Okay.
Well, so then after all this fun Madrigal time, we end up going to back to the Spartans, and John confides in Keyes. He's standing there in a tent with him, and it's regarding his unpleasant realization that Halsey visited him while his parents were still alive, and it's obvious that they both trust and respect each other, but Keyes is like, holy shit. You can see it in Keyes' thought process as soon as Master Chief...
Keyes is doing the shifty eyes.
Dude, as soon as Chief just looks away, he's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And Keyes then looks at John and is like, I promise, I'm going to look into these revelations personally. I'm going to take a personal, interest in this for you, and I'm going to do everything I can.
I even think that John suspects him. Towards the end of the conversation too. There's that look he gives where it's the funny thing is that this probably would have worked on John very easily before he took his pellet out.
Sure. Yeah.
It's probably would have been okay, yep, I've reported it. Let's move on. But I think he's just kind of I think I can trust him, so let's test that.
Yeah, I don't know, because so Keyes says he'll look into it personally after they get back to Reach and they get the artifact back to Reach and stuff. But I don't know. I think John still was thank you very much. He still seemed like he was going to accept it. I didn't know. I didn't think he was sus, or at least John thought Keyes was sus, but I don't know.
Yeah, it seemed like he had other things on his mind than suspecting Keyes of anything. It seemed like he was still just kind of on the one track of focusing.
I mean, he definitely suspects him later.
Oh yeah, definitely later. Yeah. Speaking of Keyes, after this conversation, this tense conversation with John, Keyes and Halsey have a kind of a video conference with Admiral Parangoski back on Reach, in which Parangoski sort of chides Halsey, scolds her a little bit for her ongoing failure to keep John on a short leash mentally, kind of bringing up this problem that's been a problem since episode 1 of we have our best Spartan is having an identity crisis and these memories and all that, and this is a problem. You told me Cortana would fix this problem, basically, all these things Parangoski's bringing up. And Halsey kind of counters Parangoski, saying, John's memories are the only reason we're here on Eridanus finding this artifact, so, it's been worth it. But, Parangoski's over it. She's kind of had enough of Halsey's scheming and tells her flat out, I'm cutting you off. I'm shutting you down. You're done. I'm calling you back, yada, yada. And Halsey sort of pulls this trump card, kind of the nuclear option. Hey, if you kind of let my Spartan program fall apart, it will take you down with it. Because if Admiral Hood finds out about this, and everything blows up in our faces, he'll look for a scapegoat, and you'll probably be it. So it's kind of like, Halsey makes this case of like, Parangoski, if you take me down, you're coming with me. So it's this blackmail situation. It's getting really ugly, getting really divisive and political and just, messy.
Dun dun da da dun dun da da dun, dun. Like it's just
And in light of that, in light of how bad it's getting, Keyes says he wants Miranda taken off the artifact project to kind of build some distance between her and Halsey because
Yeah, he's like her hands are clean in this.
Yeah, exactly. He wants his daughter to have like a shot at a career after this. Like, the military is very political. As no matter what timeline you're looking at, what universe you're in. And he wants what's best for his daughter, so he wants her as far away from this as possible.
Now, meanwhile, while this is all going on, Aiden, creepy assistant, he's drilling into a layer of the crystal surrounding the artifact, and I think my favorite shot in the whole episode happens where this just earth-shattering noise, this piercing shriek just starts to emanate from the crystal as it's pierced into, and it drops every single human on the base to their knees, and they're all just screaming, holding their ears. Interesting enough, though, I don't know if you all noticed this, but there was no blood dripping from the ears.
Yeah, that's true.
Which makes me
there
think
was.
Really?
For what's-his-face, the creepy assistant, Aiden, I noticed a little bit at the end, but I also noticed that none of the Spartans seemed to have been affected by it, and Miranda... We don't see Miranda being affected by it. Like she was in her ship and everything, so I don't know about that. But none of the Spartans seem to have been jarred by the sound.
Well, they probably have noise dampeners in their helmets. If I had to guess, with
Chief
that one.
wasn't wearing his helmet.
Well, I was to say is that Chief is different.
Yeah.
We've seen that Chief is different, and that this alien technology doesn't have an effect on him.
True.
What I'm thinking, too, is that maybe that this noise wasn't an actual noise. Maybe it was like a psychological signal, and that's why it knocked everybody down. It wasn't actually like a real like noise, because otherwise I feel like everyone's ears should have been bleeding with how quickly they all dropped to the ground. Like I didn't see like huge, because they're not afraid to do gore on this show, so I was expecting just lots of blood drip into the ground, but I didn't really see that. But what was very interesting is that the back on Madrigal, the lights in the cave started like acting up, and Maquia, she suddenly managed to like, she knew where the other artifact was based on this like signal going out, and so they immediately board their ships and start heading towards the second artifact.
That's right.
Yeah,
so
and
we're about to see our first like head-to-head confrontation between the two, I guess, archaeological teams, as it were.
Yeah. And then like right after that, it cuts right to Miranda just being straight excited by the idea that the artifact is, quote, communicating. Her dad walks in and all of her excitement's just deflated, and he tells her she's being sidelined and reassigned to linguistic research because Keyes is like, no, like you're this is too dangerous. No way, I'm not doing it anymore. And he maintains.
He doesn't even say that. He's just kind of like, "You're done."
Yeah, I mean,
he doesn't even give her
he doesn't explain
reason.
why.
He maintains that it's for her own good, and like the typical like because I said so. And then
you know what the best part is? He literally could have just said like why? It's like Halsey's nuts. She would have been like, fair
probably
enough.
Yeah. Well,
I'll pack my stuff.
Well, like he ends up like at first like she thinks it's like the dad card, and then he flips it and is like, that's a direct order. And Miranda obviously knows he's hiding something from her, and so she just deduces that Halsey has like damaging blackmail against Keyes, which he doesn't outright deny it. It's, quote, what has she got on you? But like you don't get an answer. You don't get an answer at all.
Yeah. So it's kind of left unsaid, but it's implied that Miranda is guessing correctly. Meanwhile, while that's happening, John is still fuming over all the half-truths that Halsey's been feeding him over and over, and he just has this look like he's obsessed and like pissed off, and he's kind of storming around like with all this. He's like a caged animal. He has all this like barely restrained energy and frustration, and he's just staring at Halsey from across the camp, and he asks,
and don't forget, he doesn't know how to use those like emotions or react to, or how to like how to properly
process.
Handle that.
Yeah, it's important to remember, like these are child soldiers who were never taught how to, emotionally regulate themselves in a healthy way. And he's like, he needs to do something about this. So what he does is he asks Cortana, like demands really, he says, find my adoption file. Find the adoption files of me and the other Spartans. I want to know the details of like how we became adopted into the Spartan program and like, how we all got where we are, basically.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean? I don't know what that is. Adoption? What's that?
Yeah, Cortana hits a brick wall. She's like, I don't have any. I don't have access to anything. And earlier, John had established, hey, Cortana, you have access to all of human knowledge, right?
That was his trump card. He was like, what do you mean you can't find that? So
right.
Clearly something's up here.
Well, and even Cortana's a little confused too. She's like, I
she seems like surprised that, it's like she looked in a file cabinet in her Cortex and was like surprised to find that she can't see, she doesn't see any adoption files. She's like, that's weird. So yeah, like they're both kind of
right when this is happening, he like is walking by Halsey and looks at her and sees Keyes talking, and like they're just like chumming it up, and it's like, this is weird, something's going on.
So like, Cortana is a dead end there, but he's still determined to get answers. So he decides what he's going to do is go to the second artifact and just grab it, touch it. And of course, Cortana warns him, like, don't do that, that's dangerous, we don't know what'll happen. But he's like, I don't care. He grabs the artifact, and what's given to him is a very clear, very vivid memory of him being abducted as a child at night by, masked operatives that, he can't identify. And he kind of sees them putting like another child in his bed. It almost seems like he's being replaced by a clone of himself. And he, tries to run away from them, but he gets caught by none other than a younger Halsey herself. And she even like jams a needle in him, sedates him. And he sees all of this from the second artifact and passes out, obviously, from the strain of interacting with the artifact. And when he comes to, he looks dead in the eye across the room at Halsey and immediately says, like, you kidnapped me. Like, he just confronts her immediately with it. And of course, she responds with her very typical placation and misdirection tactics. Like,
she tried so hard. It was so beautiful. It was like you ever see like the look of someone who's not in control, but they think that there's a chance. They're like, I can do this, and it's like the whole world's like, no, you can't.
Yeah, she was.
You need to run.
She was laying it on thick, like, John, I promise you, I will answer everything you want to know. But she says, we'll deal with this back on Reach. Kind of like exactly what Keyes did earlier. Like, we'll deal with this when we get back to Reach. Yada yada. And so John, at this point, like, he's heard it all before. He's tired of the excuses. He's overcome by rage, and he leaps at Halsey with violent intent, like he's about to take her head off. And at the very last second, he's just kind of boom, shut down by Cortana. Yeah, hits the power button on his brain, and just he collapses, drops to the ground.
Windows is updating.
Yeah, Cortana really does take control that time.
Yeah. Speaking of hitting off switches, Jaden, who else gets their off switch hit?
Oh man, how did I end up on this? How did I pull a short straw on this? All right. Back to Quan, everyone's favorite character. I feel bad because the actress is actually doing a really good job.
Oh yeah,
I don't like her.
Yeah, nothing against her.
Quan, having freed herself from her bindings. Actually, remember how again, this is back to the writers of the show listened to our podcast before we even released it,
of course,
and fixed this stuff. Remember we were complaining about her not doing like ambushy terroristy things. Mm-hmm. Well, she actually pulls some really slick guerrilla tactic move.
Hello, yeah.
Nice. She hides in like a sand pile and waits for Soren to come back, and then like jumps out and stuns him with a shock prod.
Mm-hmm.
And like knocks his ass out, which I was like, wow, Spartan. I didn't think that worked on Spartans, to be honest. I was like, I'm sure there was like some weird, electricity doesn't hurt me thing, but no, it turns out it does. And she grabs his like pirate pistol and was about to kill him, but then decides not to.
Yeah,
and it just like ends there. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't see her to pull the trigger, but like she definitely has the opportunity to, and
we don't even get one of those like you hear a gunshot or something like that. Like,
it like pans up and you hear a gunshot.
Off-screen death.
It cuts right back to Chief waking up, and he's kind of barely like It's kind of like he had a really bad hangover and he's like waking up, like that's what it looked like. And he's like, holy shit, what the fuck? And all of a sudden he gets up and he's like, where's Dr. Halsey? And Cortana's like, I am not going to tell you that. And she was like, you might want to chill. And then and he's like, no, I need to find her. And he starts walking. He's covered, like he's surrounded by like troops right now. And they have like medical equipment and stuff and like excavation stuff. And so like clearly they're taking a look at him and the artifact. And as soon as he turns around and he goes to like find Halsey and like Cortana's trying to argue with him, all of a sudden Cortana just stops and just is like, Covenant forces, or no, what'd she say? She was like,
slip space rupture.
Yeah, she goes, slip space rupture, and that's a tongue twister. And she says, slip space rupture, and he just stops. He doesn't even move. And it is so badass because he just turns and looks up at the sky, and then all of a sudden you have Covenant just show up, and they just start fucking shit up. And they just start going after the base. And it is
mark it down.
Beautiful.
Episode 5. We can end Grunt Watch. Grunt Watch is over. We finally got our grunts.
We got Jackals too.
Yeah, we got Jackals and Grunts. Same episode.
So basically, the Covenant show up and they go all out, vicious assault on the UNSC base, and they destroy the Pioneer. Like they just boof, like it's gone. And then the crane Halsey was going to use to load the artifact, that thing just goes poof, gone. So John arms himself, all that, puts his helmet on, and he urges all non-combatants into the cave. And we see Aiden or whatever, the fun assistant. Yeah, he's like yelling. He's like, the artifact stays with me. Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was weird.
He's like
freaking out. Yeah.
It was very strange.
Yeah.
He's psycho, and but it fits the character. He can be a freak. He's Halsey's assistant. What do you expect?
True.
Yeah.
And so all the non-combatants go in the cave, and then Keyes leads a Marine response, and he's like, call for air support, and the guy's like, okay, and he turns around and gets blown up. So then while Silver Team, then they start kind of loading the artifact into a Warthog. So while John was passed out, they get the artifact officially out of like whatever is left of the crystalline stuff that's around it and stuff. And so they're putting it on a Warthog, and then the team kind of just pushes towards the evac point, and Kai is like, when Chief is walking to the Warthog, he sees Kai, and she's like, what do you want me to do? And he's just like, I want you to cover the Marines, like hang back, cover the Marines, because we see Kai on the ship with Miranda, and she's like, what do you want me to do? And Miranda's like, go fight. Like, the fuck, bro? Like, get out there, go. And she's like, alrighty. And so that's why she was out. So Chief wasn't even like necessarily surprised to see her. He was just like, Kai, go cover the Marines. Like that was it. He was ready to go.
Well, he's like, fuck it, we need help. I'm not going to make you stay behind. And again, I just love the fact that Chief walks out of the cave and a Marine's like, here you go.
Just gives him a gun.
That's such like the game, just hands him a rifle. And I was like, all right.
I love that part,
Yeah. It was cool. It was badass.
He knows that like he needs Kai's help. Like it's necessary for her to be a part of the fight. And she seems like she's the team's designated sniper too, so kind of makes sense for her to like hang back and give them overwatch. So yeah, it's ramping up. It's getting to be a really cool scene. We've got Banshees flying overhead and just doing strafing runs, attacking from above. Like we said, we got grunts finally showing up. We got jackals, Covenant infantry just deploying in front of the Spartans. And so Silver Team is like in formation, blazing away, fighting their way up the hill. John, Riz, and Vanek, they sort of get in the Warthog together and they start carrying the artifact up the hill. They try to reach Miranda's ship. Is it a Pelican or a Condor? It's one of those. I'm guessing a Condor. It's kind of big.
Miranda's ship's a Condor, and then like the other one's like that weird
Halsey's
almost like the base. Halsey's ship's like the weird base building ship from Halo Wars 2.
Yeah, it looks like some kind of like Corvette or frigate,
one of the drop ships.
I still think it looks like the Marvel ship that Captain America crashed into the ocean.
Kind of
a little bit.
So they're almost to Miranda's ship, and they're almost home free with the artifact, but Miranda's airship gets blown up by Covenant aircraft. So the Banshees just swoop over and just destroy her ship. Miranda's inside. She's trying to evacuate her staff and these other Marines and naval personnel with her. We see her kind of in imminent mortal danger as the ship blows up, basically. And Keyes sees this, and he obviously he thinks maybe his daughter's dying, so he's screaming up the hill, Miranda. It's a very tense scene. Like things are ramping up for sure.
Surprisingly, we actually see Halsey concerned for the first time in the entire show with her daughter's existence.
Yeah, she finally notices.
Yeah, she finally like, oh shit, that's right. I had a daughter over there. That's right. I have to care. And so she actually gets out of the ship and goes and tries to help her, which I was like, that's kind of surprising that, she didn't try to send one of her minions. Hey, go help my daughter, will you? Or sorry, go help Dr. Keyes, will you?
Right.
You mean your daughter? Sure, whatever. But no, she actually gave a crap, which was great. Meanwhile, we got Keyes and Kai. They're kind of like fighting off the Covenant, dropping in on the perimeter, but they're getting their butts kicked, for lack of a better phrase. And Kai seems to not be doing well in combat. She actually looks like she's freezing.
Yeah.
Like, we've talked about in earlier episodes where like they're experiencing emotions for the first time. Well, Kai gets to know what panic feels like, and it's not good.
Yeah, not an opportune time to be experiencing her first panic attack.
By the way, I thought she was dead about 5 or 6 times because the warning noise on her shield was going off a lot.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've played plenty of games of Halo, and I feel like I would have been in the respawn screen by now if I heard that many beeps.
Yeah.
Beeps and boops.
Yeah, she's like, all this stuff is happening around her, and like, yeah, she's freezing up a little bit. It seems like a probable side effect of having her palate out, where just like these emotional responses to fear and stress, like the palate is probably there to filter stuff like that out, and so without it, she's not at her peak operational capacity for sure. So things are not looking good for Kai at all.
No.
Basically, Miranda, she's alive but barely, and she's helping her staff, and so then it cuts to Halsey going to save her, and so then it goes from that to Riz shooting down Banshees with the turret, Vanek blasting away from the passenger seat. John is just, Halsey's like urging him to drive the artifact to her ship like immediately, and he just is like, okay, fine, whatever. And he's basically acting the way he should. And then all of a sudden,
anyone else think the Banshees move a little funny, by the way?
I thought some of the CG was a little iffy.
It feels very much like, I don't know, like of all the good CG they have in the show, like the Banshees move kind of, it feels like early 50s ship movement.
It felt a little weird.
Yeah, like because they definitely move faster than the games, which I'm like, whatever, that's fine. But it was like the way that they're animated makes them look really weird.
Yeah, I felt that.
At least in my mind.
I felt that. But I think it looked good because right then and there, when Kai is like taking fire and we see John like just kind of decide that, okay, I'm going to go off objective. I'm going to go help her. And then Halsey and Cortana are both like, no, stay, no. And John's like, screw off. And he says like something like, I have to save her or something like that.
Can't let her die.
So he jumps. Yeah, it's fucking badass.
Yeah.
He jumps out of the Warthog mid like drive. He's like take over driving, and then like I think his Riz like jumps in to take over.
Vanek takes the wheel.
Oh yeah, no, Vanek, yeah. And he jumps out. He jumps out of the Warthog while it's going, and lands on a Banshee. Starts shooting it in the like figuratively head of the Banshee, and then like climbs down or like slides down the side, and then like steers the fucking Banshee with his like sheer strength. And then
we got hijacking, people.
Dude,
we got a hijacking.
It was so badass, and he like crashes it into the dropship that's like attacking her, and it just like completely goes like explosion, like gone, and like everybody just gets thrown on the ground, like all of the Covenant guys and everything, and they're all like cut in half, and like they're all like messed up. Some survive, but they're mostly, he wipes out like the whole attacking force almost, essentially.
Yeah. It prevents Kai's immediate demise from these Covenant troops. So yeah, big explosion. But right after John does that, while that's happening, the Warthog with Riz and Vanek in it at this point, unfortunately gets wrecked by a crashing Banshee. A Banshee gets, shot down, flies, crashed into the ground and just destroys the Warthog, sends Riz and Vanek flying, the artifact flying. It's kind of off in the open now. It's no longer on its way to safety, so that's bad. Luckily, Keyes, Kai, and John all survive the dropship explosion from John's kamikaze Banshee maneuver, but unfortunately, a sizable group of grunts and jackals also have survived the explosion, and they are standing between John and Kai now. And so, this is like the highlight of the episode, a highlight of the series, highlight of my week. This scene right here, where
it's so badass.
John stands up.
It was great.
He stands up and he just goes absolutely sicko mode, just slaughtering dozens of grunts and jackals, just breaking necks, shooting faces, bashing dudes apart. Oh my God, it's so awesome. It's so fun to watch.
He throws the pistol after he's done with it.
Yeah, he does.
No, I love that. I love all this.
Oh God!
He finds Kai, who is currently getting a beating by an elite who's just kicking her while she's down. This is an elite looking to, kill a demon and get the glory, I guess. And John he's like, square up, motherfucker. And he just fights this guy empty-handed, starts punching the shit out of this elite, knocks him to the ground, beats him to a pulp, and then stomps his head in, just craters this elite's head with his foot. And the entire time he's just letting out this blood-curdling war cry. It's metal as hell. I loved it. It was so awesome. But no, yeah, that's...
The only little thing that I saw in that whole awesome scene was there's this shot where he stops to pick up a Marine midway through the shot, and I'm wondering if there was meant to be a cut there, because it kind of he kind of slows down to help that Marine, and then the action keeps going again, and I was like, that's kind of throws me off my rhythm a little bit, but that was awesome.
I noticed that, and I liked that, because it was he's kind of going back and forth from dishing out the pain, killing enemies, to making sure teammates are okay. It's kind of a really quick, let me help you to your feet.
It was cool,
and then
but
get
I was just
behind
kind
me.
of how does that? I was like, where? I wish I had kind of seen that guy run off in another shot. Maybe.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like it's just weird because his the Marine's armor was covered in sand, so he matched in with the environment. Yeah. So it was almost it's just a weird I don't know. I'm that was a little off putting for me, but the rest of the scene was so awesome, it made up for everything there. I was like, I can forget that. This scene was so good, I watched it 2 or 3 times, which is why I noticed the Marine.
Same here.
So
yeah.
My buddy even said, is the show worth watching? I said, well, this scene definitely was. So, after this is all done, he basically kills pretty much everything. and then it's meanwhile he looks over and goes, oh right, the artifact I'm supposed to protect.
Right.
He runs over, and as he gets within a few feet of it, a Covenant Spirit dropship drops down, which I was like, oh fuck yeah, the best dropship showed up. I was like, that's kind of awesome. And a brute with a gravity hammer, a brute chieftain, which kinda looks like the main guy from Halo 2.
Like Tartarus?
Yeah,
I thought
Tartarus,
that too. A little bit.
It kind of looks like Tartarus, but it
Little
could
bit.
be
Some people think it's Atriox.
Maybe. No, I don't think. Maybe, who knows? At this point, it could be anyone.
Yeah.
And he just drops down, and oh my god, one of the coolest things ever. Master Chief picked up an energy shield from one of the jackals and actually gets to use it, which I always thought, playing through those games, I always wanted to see that happen. I wanted to can I pick up the shield, please?
Yeah.
And he does
right.
just in time to block a gravity hammer strike that would have splattered him.
Mm-hmm.
But instead it just knocks him away, and then that guy just casually grabs it and then floats back up into the cruiser.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was very much I jokingly wanted to add in the audio from the Green Goblin, "We'll meet again, Spider-Man," as he flies. The thing just floats up in and they take off.
Yeah.
I heard Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty being like, no, like when it goes up, Master Chief being like, fuck,
no. Yeah. Yeah. So the artifact unfortunately gets taken by the brute, and we see Riz and Vanek have survived the Warthog crash, luckily, and they are gathering around Kai and trying to get her to respond, and she's laying there,
she's out,
not moving, not saying anything, so it's looking pretty grim for Kai.
Yeah, and so then it cuts to Maquis aboard the Covenant capital ship, and they tell an elite to, quote, make it look good before they're ejected in a drop pod to the surface and they're getting shot at by the capital ship. So like the capital ship's like obviously like attacking it, but not really, but making it look good. And then they emerge from the pod, and John and Cortana kind of share like this surprise moment, and
it's a human life form like that. We didn't expect that.
Yeah, and John at first is like walks up with a weapon and is like about to shoot them, and then he kind of like sees that it's a person, and then he like takes his helmet off or whatever, or just like stops. He's covered in guts and blood, which is like wild, looking like something out of Doom.
So
but
cool.
it was, and then it just ends. That's it. You get all that action, and then it's like,
Maki really wanted to get captured by the humans. Really wanted to, like, let's try this again.
Yeah.
Trying it, yeah. The old help me, I'm a poor defenseless human act. Pulling that out again.
Yep.
But yeah, that's where episode 5, Reckoning, ends. All right, we're gonna keep this conversation going, but first, a quick break. Okay, so we have sort of summarized, broken down, gotten into the nitty-gritty of what happened in Reckoning, episode 5 of the Halo series. And now let's get into some just reactions, thoughts. What went right? What went wrong? What was a mixed bag? How are we feeling? This is like we're about halfway through the season, I think, if I'm counting correctly. If I heard correctly about how many episodes this will be. So, Jaden, you go first. What are your thoughts on episode 5? Things you liked, things you didn't, things in the middle.
This right off the bat, this felt like a completely different show, and a show that I actually would like to watch. The action was really, really, really. I mean, the action was better than even the first episode. Like the first episode feels, just kiddish compared to this one. Like there was the stunt work was really good. The coordination was excellent. The stakes actually made me care a little bit. I'm gonna be honest, I still don't care about these characters. I really don't. They still have not gotten me to care about anybody yet. But they made me care a little more now that they didn't cut to Madrigal as much, which was nice. That was lovely.
Yeah.
This like when they're actually doing like the cool Halo stuff, I'm really into it, and I think that this episode was a real benefit to the show, because before this, man, I think we talked about it, like there's been nothing going on action wise for like ever since the first 20 minutes of the first episode. And I'm really kind of worried that that's going to be the pace that they're doing. Like we're going to have like 4 more episodes of this, and then like in the last episode we'll get some more action. Because I mean, like I don't know if that's sustainable for them audience wise, because I know there's a lot of people out there who have just kind of dropped off, and I know that me personally, I don't think I would have watched the show if I wasn't doing this podcast with you guys. I don't think I would have made it past the first couple episodes, but I'm glad we're kind of course correcting and maybe getting back on track to where they probably have been in the beginning. But I mean, also there's also the thinking of like they had to get that stuff out of the way first, and now we're just going to see more and more action maybe.
Yeah.
So who knows? I know that I was at about a 3 for excitement. I dropped down to about a 1, and now I'm back up to I'd say a healthy 4.5 to 5.
Nice.
Still don't care about the Madrigal stuff. I'm really
That's fair.
I like that. Like I said, it's just really bad. I want to care. I really do, because I like the guy. I like Soren. I like Soren's. Like I don't know. I'm liking him a little bit more and more. I'm always a fan of like rogue pirates,
Sure.
But like, there needs to be more, man. There just needs to. Again, I'm still hoping to God. I really do hope that they do the whole Quan like rescues Madrigal and just gets glassed and they all die. I think that would be just such a funny way to end that series. That would be so good in my mind. They won't do it though.
Probably
They're not going to do it.
Kev, how about you? You mentioned you had some gripes earlier. Lay them out for us.
Yeah. I will say with the Madrigal stuff, I think it would be interesting if they lost the planet and it shows that the infighting is not worth it, and that the whole humanity is up against like something bigger than itself, and like they can't save the planet, but like a lot of people are able to survive, and they have to like band together with the UNSC. I think that'd be cool. But yeah, I had some weird gripes, mostly cinematically rather than story-wise. So, like, I think this effects, though, man, like, with the budget they have, it, like, Infinite, Halo 4, like, Halo 5, like, that looks better cutscene-wise than some of this shit. Like, the grunt taking over the the like I think it was the Warthog. It looked CG, like it wasn't like you know what I mean. Like I could tell. So that some of the CG, like the ships and stuff, it looked gimmicky. It didn't look good. It just I'm sorry, it just didn't look as good as like other stuff that we have seen in other mediums. Like Picard, like I'm watching Picard and like the ships look so fucking cool and badass and it looks realistic, whereas this does not as much. But I think my biggest these I'll give my little gripes first and then I'll give my positives. So my gripes were also like she broke the fucking bike with like a rock. Like what? That didn't make any sense.
To be fair,
it was weird.
To be fair, there was several rocks. She went through more than one rock trying to break out of the cuffs. I know.
They were brittle. They were brittle rocks. How is it going to break metal? It didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I didn't like that he just left her there. I thought that was dumb. His gun looks like a 3D printed cosplay gun. Like, I'm sorry. It really does. But I will say he's definitely like a Destiny hunter. Like, I am convinced he is a hunter. Like, there's no like way to not convince me. He's got the hood, he's got the armor, he's got the hand cannon. Come on. But yeah, so that the magical stuff, I don't give a shit. It's so boring to me. Like, I'm invested in the two of them, but I'm not invested in like their like mission, if that makes more sense. I thought it was, weird when John like lunged at Halsey. I mean, like it just felt weird and kind of cringy and awkward. Also, when he was punching the Elite to death, like the Iron Man style, looked a little awkward to me. With his scream while he's punching this thing. Those are really more of my gripes. It just felt like off-putting and weird. Not off-putting to where like I was uncomfortable. Just more like just didn't feel good. I don't know. But everything else was fucking badass. I loved the whole like fight. Like that was just the most badass thing in the show so far. I thought that seeing the Needlers actually in action was super cool to finally see them like, stick to the guy's chest and he just gets dusted. Like it was insane.
R.I.P. to that vaporized Marine.
Oh yeah.
Dude, it was cool. And
we got to see he sacrificed himself for a noble cause. Actually getting to see a Needler work.
He died for our entertainment.
Yeah, right. I liked how it like portrayed war in terms of more realistic, like, Keyes just yelling at somebody to go do something, and then they're like, okay, they turn around, they're just dead, and now it's like, okay, now what? I gotta find somebody else. Like, I thought that was, like, more like, that happens, like, shit sucks. And I think the, what was it? The hijacking was so cool. Like, that whole sequence was so cool. My favorite part of it was when because, like, John said something stupid where he was like, what if I drive? And I was like, oh, my God. But there were two things that happened that I loved and I needed more of. So the first one happens later on when John, like, when he destroys the Pelican and everything and he's, like, comes up in fire and he's, like, staring at everybody. He finishes his pistol and then chucks the pistol at a grunt and hits the grunt in the head. And that was the best. Oh, God. That was so funny. I will say I really was upset that I didn't hear like the pop and like the birthday. Yay! Like I wanted it so badly.
Oh
I was
just
like, that's
fastball
great.
That thing, just yeet right in the grunt's head.
Yes. But the one thing that I was dying laughing, and I was like, this is hilarious, but also made me excited because it was like acknowledging it, was Chief was using a weapon. And he's firing, he's shooting at Covenant. And Cortana comments is like, hey, you should switch to your secondary. And he just says, I know how the game's played, Cortana. And I was dying. I thought that was great. Just because I was like, it's a fun little quick acknowledgement of like, haha. But like, it was so cool. He just goes on to just fuck shit up. Like that whole sequence was great. Like the other stuff, like seeing John with his family and like seeing him getting kidnapped, and they kind of hint at like, you replaced me with something, and like it's a cloning. She wasn't supposed to do that. We've been over that for the last 3 episodes. Like we know she does some shady shit, and so like I thought that was cool that we we're acknowledging that. I understand why John was yelly and screamy because it fits the character and it fits that story and narrative. It was weird to hear Master Chief yelling. It was kind of cool to see him covered in guts, but it felt more Doom style, but it was still really cool. But yeah, I had fun. I have gripes because like some of it was off-putting. Like the CG was weird, but everything else, man, that entire fight sequence was so badass. And to see Kai have like an existential breakdown and that kind of shit, like that was wicked cool to see, like a Spartan actually losing their shit.
That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, and I like how John just instantaneously knew that she, took her pellet out, and I thought that was cool. I thought, she still did work. So yeah, I had a good time. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I did too. Like there were so many things I liked about this, and you touched on several of them actually. So what I'll say is that overall, just this episode was I checked, it was actually shorter runtime. It was like about 40 minutes compared to 50 some minutes for the previous few.
Which so much happened, but it felt more self-contained than some of the other episodes.
Yes.
Like I felt like more got done in this episode with having less time.
100%. I was thinking like this was shorter to its benefit. Like it was, short, sweet, to the point, and compared to the last few, it felt a lot more efficient and compelling. It was basically, as cohesive and efficient as I feel like the show has been since Contact, since the first episode. Like it was, engaging and well paced to as well as it has been. So high point, definitely a high watermark. And I'll point out even like the Quan subplot on Madrigal that we all like to rag on, like none of us are particularly interested in. Even that felt less bloated and it was more engaging as a result. Like it was just it showed us what we needed to know about that subplot, and it didn't outstay its welcome in this episode. So I think A plot and B plot were both done a lot better in this one.
I think so too.
Yeah. We talked about the battle scene. I won't belabor the point, but I'll just say it was exactly what I've been waiting for. Like, I think back in episode 2 or 3, I was saying like, gonna need some more action soon. Like I've been on Jaden's side about that since day one. Like, we're losing momentum a little bit, and this was exactly what we needed. And the best part of this episode was though that we had this amazing set piece action sequence. This awesome battle, sort of contrasting and acting as a counterpart to this climax of the unraveling of the dark secrets of the Spartan program and John's sort of inner turmoil and his search for answers. Like all that's happening at once. So we're getting a lot of personal intrigue on top of, pew pew bang bang, kaboom and death and mayhem. It was a lot. It was a lot of good stuff. The Needler thing was rad. Loved that. Excellent fan service just all around, like Kevin said. But also, I if we're going back to episode 1 again, I think Jada and I, again, we were concerned about the way Captain Keyes is being used in this show as a character. Like, not 100%, not really fitting the potential and sort of the identity of the video game Keyes, where Keyes from the games and the books, he's decisive, he's a hard charging, leader of people into combat, like. And so this was awesome to see, the show's version of Captain Keyes in that hot zone and like,
like jumping behind a minigun and firing.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
He delivered.
He stepped up. He was in charge of a combat situation, calling the shots and, being the man in charge. That was really cool. So I love seeing that. And words barely suffice for how cool it was seeing a live action version of Master Chief just brawl with an elite, knock him to the ground, and just curb stomp the shit out of him. I'm never getting over that. I love that so much. And yeah, we've talked about...
That's content. That is the content we're here for.
Yes.
Is content. But yeah, like my final thoughts on this, just this whole episode was, like we said at the beginning, this was show. This was less tell, more show. And, this was a payoff episode because I think, like, we've talked about, we're following up on a lot of things that have been built on or alluded to in previous episodes. Like Kevin, you mentioned how weird it is seeing John kind of lunge at Halsey the way he did, and I don't disagree. It was odd, but I feel like it was rational payoff to these last 2 or 3 episodes of him kind of quietly stewing on this unanswered question, like, why were you there? Why am I seeing you in my memories? And so like I said,
it fits the narrative.
Yeah, it fits.
Oh,
so
yeah.
like that's the upside. Like it was weird to see, but it fits because we we're getting payoff to these earlier scenes, and that applies to so many things like Kai's development over the last couple episodes of like really thinking for herself, having a personality emerge. But there's like a downside to that. We're seeing like sort of the cost of that, where, you know, her edge is wearing off in combat and she nearly pays the ultimate price for that. So there was just so much payoff happening and so many plot points kind of reaching an apex in this episode. Just so many good things to look back on. Any final thoughts from you two before we wrap up tonight?
I honestly, I think you guys made great points and you covered everything that I would want to talk about. So I would just say that I'm optimistic for the next episode. I hope that they continue the momentum, because at this point, the shift seems to be going faster. So if they slow down, I feel like it'll be a big misstep on their part. So I can't wait to see what they come up with. You have my curiosity. Now you have my attention.
I will say, seeing Jaden say, "Okay, I had fun" in Discord was like great. I was like, "Ha! He did! Oh
Finally,
God, extra! Here.
I would have to be the world's biggest like jerk just to be like, "No, I still didn't have fun with that." No, I gotta admit, like I had fun. You know,
yeah.
You tricked me. Yeah, you lulled me into a false sense of not fun, and then I had fun. So if that was your hope, well done, Halo. But I feel like you probably shouldn't have done that, because you probably lost a lot of people already.
Yeah, I think cinematically I had fun. I definitely think, again, Halo. It felt like Halo. I think that definitely felt like Halo. The call to, you know, him hijacking the Banshee and, you know, everything he did. It was so cool. I also think what they did with Kai having like a panic attack, but like they incorporated like the sound of the shields going off to like emphasize that panic attack, and I thought that was really good. I think I'm really excited to see like what they do with her, because she's just like Chief. She took her pellet out, but she's going through her experience a lot differently than him.
She's going through it without Cortana, which I think is the biggest difference.
But now she's going to have a companion named Master Cheeks. And I remember we talked about the whole, like, you guys were saying, oh, there's going to be a love triangle between, you know, Cortana and Maki. I think it's going to be with Kai. I think she likes Chief. I think she's into the Master Cheeks, and I think that is going to be a thing.
We'll see.
I'm just saying.
Anything's possible.
Again, I have to say, I didn't like this theory. I don't want people thinking I'm out there supporting this.
I know.
No. Bad.
It's poison.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I think it's going pretty well right now without, like, the love interest stuff. Like, you don't really have that with any of these characters at the moment, and I think it's fine. I don't think it's a problem. I think it's perfectly fine. I'm here for it. I think, you know, what they're focusing on right now is pretty good. You know, they don't even have their humanity, so, or at least they're learning about it right now, and I think it's fitting the narrative. It's working fine. I think seeing John freak out, he's scary. I've seen Pablo Schreiber be scary before, and so it was scary. He does a good job of being scary.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm excited for more. I watched the after show stuff. I will say, like, I really liked the episode a lot, so I wanted more. So I watched the after show stuff, a couple of those episodes, and he said that the next episode 6, is his favorite. So I'm very excited to see what happens. I'm here for it. Let's go.
Same here. Yeah, looking forward to more. I'm optimistic now. I'm happy. I'm content. Yum, yum. Give me seconds. Please, sir, may I have some more?
Yeah. Well, that about wraps it up. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please take a second to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us grow the show. And be sure to connect with us on Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter @lore_party. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.